Have you ever had the feeling that something in your life is off? Not obviously wrong, not bad enough to complain about, just off. Maybe from the outside everything looks fine. You're doing what you're supposed to do, you're keeping up with your responsibilities, you're getting through the days, but underneath it all, there's this quiet feeling that something isn't quite fitting anymore. And the strange thing is, most of us never stop long enough to ask why. We fill every spare moment with noise, work, social media, responsibilities, other people's opinions, other people's expectations. And eventually we become so busy living our lives that we forget to ask whether they're actually ours. Because when you've spent years following blueprints you never consciously chose, that feeling doesn't disappear. It waits. And the more we ignore it, the louder it becomes. In this episode, I want to talk about that feeling. Why it isn't random, why so many of us end up disconnected from ourselves without even realizing it, and why the answers we're searching for are often so much closer than we think. Not because we haven't found them, but because we've become very good at avoiding them. Welcome to the YALARA Podcast. I'm Naomi Gershlik and I'll be your host for today's episode. At YALARA, we're exploring what it means to redefine modern female identity on our own terms. To move beyond inherited expectations, external definitions of success, and the paths we've been told we're supposed to follow. Through conversations about identity, alignment, self-trust, personal growth, and building a life that genuinely feels like your own, we're creating a space for women who know there has to be another way forward. Not just individually, but together. In this episode today, I want to really talk about why your life feels off and why it's actually not random. Oh, lightning. Oh, it's going to storm. Oh, you definitely heard that. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a lovely chat in a storm. I don't know about you guys, but a storm for me always feels so cozy when I'm inside. And it's a little bit dark because the cloud is over. Got the warm light. Got the thunder. This is such vibes. I love it. Okay, perfect. We're going to podcast in a storm, sure. Maybe this is your sign to go grab a blanket and a tea. And we can just have a little cozy chat. I'm not sure where you're listening to this right now. Maybe you're in your cozy vibes. Maybe you're getting ready. Maybe you're in your routine. I really want to talk about routines because they contribute so much to stagnation. I will actually just let the thunder roll out. Wow. Yes, routines. When we're doing the same thing on repeat, it's really great for growth in what we're doing. However, if we don't pause every so often within that routine, what happens is we end up staying there because it's what we know and it's not wrong. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we keep living them and we don't come back to ourselves and take the time to pause and go, actually, is this still working for me? Usually routines are there to keep us productive. They're there to make sure we get everything done. But what is productive about it if we're working towards something that isn't actually aligning with our goals and where we're going? Often when we're so busy, we go straight to work, straight to whatever we do in the day. And then by the evening, yes, you have maybe some people have wind down time. A lot of people are just so busy that there's responsibilities at home, whether that's your washing, whether that's cooking, whether that's taking care of family or taking care of other people, whatever it is you're taking care of, even if it's things for yourself. Our time is filled to the brim. There's no time outside of what you do in the day and then going to sleep, like maybe getting 8 hours if we're lucky, which is crazy. We should be getting 8 hours. And we should be having time to rest and really have time to spend doing what we like. And most of the time, we'll have maybe 1 hour or so of downtime. But we spend that time maybe watching the news, maybe binge watching a show, maybe scrolling on social media. That's definitely what we all do. Myself included sometimes. I'm not immune to this. I'm not above it. But when we fill every single gap with noise, we're not letting silence do its job. We're in a world right now that's very hustle culture, work really hard. And to be honest, you kind of need to. Like, we've gone into a world where you have to hustle to survive. It's not even hustle to be successful, it's hustle to survive. And that's not natural. That's really not natural. And I can't imagine living a whole life like that is enjoyable. The same routine on repeat, like constantly filling the silence with noise, even if it's just a couple of minutes on social media scrolling, which ends up sometimes being we stay up late scrolling because we forget that we're actually in our bodies and in the world and in the room. We get transported out. Like, I don't know about you, but whenever I scroll, I feel like I'm in a different world. Like, it's almost like a dream state, or like when I'm transported into a really good book. Even more than a really good book. Like, I forget I'm existing. I forget I'm breathing. And I feel like this is so common. And this is why we end up down the rabbit hole, because we don't realise it's time to put it down because we don't realise we're scrolling. It just becomes automated. That's so dangerous, because when we don't have time for our own thoughts, we don't really understand and get time to reflect. Is our routine working for us? Is what we're doing working for us? Are we headed in the right direction? Is everything we're getting up and working for every single day, every single month, every single year, year on year on year, is that really what we're working towards? We don't get that time to reflect because we're not choosing to take that time. When it's so easy to just pick up your phone, oh, I'll just check what my friends are doing. Suddenly the algorithms fed you like 10 posts. And even if you're aware of it, you're like, oh, just another post, just another post, just another post. Because it's always just another post. But before you know it, you've either spent half an hour, or multiple hours losing sleep, not doing what you needed to do, not taking time for what you actually needed or wanted, just because you were too scared to sit in silence. Just because putting down the phone is too intimidating. But every single time you've put down your phone after a good scroll, I bet you felt relieved. You've not wanted to pick that phone back up. When you've actually physically put the phone down, there is no desire to pick it back up again. So why on earth have we just spent the whole last half hour doing it? And this is why it contributes to feeling a lot of guilt, doing something to procrastinate what I needed to do, when actually what I needed to do was very easy to do, but scrolling was even easier. And we choose the easy option. And by the time you do actually get to put your head on the pillow, suddenly you have all these voices going and your mind can't rest. It takes you ages to get to sleep because this is the first time in the whole day where your brain's had silence. That's a lot. That's why you're not sleeping. I mean, like, this is why. It's because we're not allowing our brain spaces to think. We're not allowing the silence because the silence feels a little bit scary. Sitting with our thoughts feels a little bit scary. We say it's boredom. It's not boredom. We're just scared to think, because the longer we sit there in silence, the deeper the thoughts get. But we shouldn't be getting to when it's time to sleep and be going, I have 1,000,001 things to do tomorrow. I feel like I didn't do enough today. I have to do extra tomorrow. And the cycle repeats. And then we can't sleep because we don't deserve to sleep. I mean, maybe you're more forgiving of yourself than me, but I know that's how I can feel. Actually, what if instead we chose moments of silence, even if it was 5 minutes? I actually think this is kind of crazy, you know, the fact that people used to walk around like as people, and if they wanted to call someone, they'd have to go to a telephone box or intentionally go and make a call. You had to spend the money and you had to go and make the call. How crazy is it that in 2026 you need a mobile device at your hip to survive? How crazy is that? Like, just think about that for a sec. It's like a pet. Like, I think of it like this. When you go and see someone, you're not just going to see them, you're going to see them and their phone. I digress. But it's crazy. Everyone comes attached to their hip with their phone, and that means there's rarely any time to shut off from it, but also the fact that it's there is a convenience. So if we're bored after 20 seconds of just sitting there, we try and find some sort of endorphin rush, which social media does give to us. We feel connected to people, that we're not by ourselves. It's just a little hit. And because our phone's there, it's the easiest quick hits that we can possibly get. So of course we're going to pick it up and fill the silence. But actually, you know what's going to make you so much more happy? It's literally just giving the silence an extra 30 seconds, and suddenly you're entertained by your thoughts. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I absolutely loved when I went to bed at night just sitting and thinking. Like, I would just imagine all of these scenarios and like make up this whole dream world. Daydreaming. I loved to daydream. I absolutely loved to daydream. I'm sure you also, when you were younger, loved daydreaming. That was so entertaining. You could make up in your head anything you wanted to make up and it was happening, as if it was reality. That was just so cool. Why don't we do more of that? I miss daydreaming. Let's do more daydreaming. So not only are we spending all the silence taking away from thoughts that we could be thinking about our own lives, thinking what's really meaningful to us, unpacking what happened in the day and just reflecting. Not only that, but what we are consuming. Let's think about that. What we are consuming. We're consuming all these multi-millionaires by 25, and therefore we have to be a multi-millionaire by 25. And because we're not, because realistically, how many of us are millionaires by 25? Having these false expectations, watching everyone's highlight reel, like it's not even their real life, it's just the best bits, it's the 1%. And because we're seeing so many people in a short period of time and forgetting what we've just watched 30 seconds later, it ends up stressing us out because we're then projecting all of those highlight reels onto our own life and where we should be. And we don't intend on doing it, but we still unintentionally, subconsciously, compare our lives to that without realizing it. And it stresses us out about all the other things we haven't done today. When we're spending all the time consuming other people's lives instead of our own, and using the time that we would have otherwise taken to be thinking about ourselves and reflecting on our lives, we're actually projecting what other people are doing onto what we should be doing. And it creates all these blueprints and these expectations. And it's not just social media, it's in person as well. It's blueprints set by our parents and family members and people around us as well. They aren't intentionally always expecting you to do something. Sometimes they're like, it depends on your parents obviously, but parents sometimes really like, you have to do this, you have to be this profession, this is your life, this is how it's all set out. They plan their lives out for you. And sometimes it's more just what's worked for them and them talking from their own experiences. And even if your parents are so supportive of whatever it is you're doing, they would have imagined something of you, imagined what your life could look like. And they've raised you in a way of how they live their life and what's successful for them. But each generation works so differently. Like, just speaking about my parents' generation, which is like Gen X, this was the university boom. This was where university became the secure way to get a job, the sure thing, like it will get you there. Stay in the system, keep going in the system, and then stay in a job, still, I guess, in a system as an employee. Work really hard, make it by the end of your career. Like traditional job, traditional lifestyle. Whereas in this generation, in the age of social media, that's actually not the sure thing. University is not the sure thing anymore. Actually, I think more people are getting employed by not going to university, which is kind of a little bit backwards if you think about it. But this is absolutely how it's happening. Whether it's apprenticeships or whether you start at a smaller job and then you work your way up and you build the skills. So actually now, coming out of university, you almost need more skills in actual jobs, like working at a cafe or something, than being able to go and work for what you actually wanted to go and do. Point being, there's so many external blueprints, whether from social media, which is the get rich quick and the do everything on social media and become a celebrity and an influencer, and then the get a traditional job, go to university, settle down, get married by 20, I don't know, 5, 30, whatever the age's expectation is these days on the timeline. Fake timeline, by the way. And get married, have kids, live your life, stay in the same job until you're like 60 or 70. There's like two complete contradicting projection blueprints of what we should be doing. And that's so conflicting, because when we're not even spending time listening to our own thoughts on what life we want to live, on what works for us and the way we work best, and what if we need more stability or we're okay with not so much stability. There's so many different traits that are specific to different people, and when we spend less and less time with ourselves and consuming more and more conflicting blueprints, it just becomes like so stressful and overwhelming. Like no wonder we're stressed. No wonder we don't know what to do. No wonder we stay in the same routine. No wonder we don't come back to ourselves and our own thoughts. Because we're just trying to do what the world is telling us is the best thing to do to make the life that we think we want. But what if we actually chose different? What if we actually could go, this is what works for me. This is how I work. This is how I want to live my life. And I'm okay with it getting me here or here or here, and the things I have to do to get there. What if we could choose differently, and we could choose what just works because it works for us, not because it works for the system or the government or our parents or social media expectations or this performance that we're playing a lot of the time for other people, but even for ourselves, because we are trying to convince ourselves what we're doing is the right thing, because this is our first time at life. So we're not well equipped to go, actually, yeah, this is exactly how I do it. We're figuring it out every day. And when we have all these things, this noise, it's so difficult to find the path. What if we shut off that noise, cleared that noise, and just focused on our own path? We got rid of the mess covering the path in front of us, and we could just see the direct path to where we needed to go to. I actually think a lot of people stay on the same path for a long time in their life because it's easier to stay on the same path without questioning it than to choose something different. I know myself, I come from a very traditional family in terms of like go to school, go to university, get a job, get married, settle down, have a family. And so as a kid, when you're growing up, you're not questioning that because you're like, well, yeah, this is work for my family and my parents, and they're trying to give me the best that they can, so why not? Also, the school environment that I was at, everyone was going to university. Not everyone, but it was like the thing, like, where are you going to university? So, yeah, where am I going to university? What am I going to study? I have no idea. There's lots of subjects out there. I actually think a lot of people go to university because the idea of entering the world when you're 18 is so daunting that knowing that you've got a few more years in a system where you're still being guided, you're furthering your education, you're learning more about the world still, you're discovering more about yourself, it still feels kind of necessary. It keeps us going and feeling like we're doing something and moving in the right direction eventually, because there's something there to support us in getting there. But I'll tell you, from the end of school to the end of university, there is absolutely no difference. Whatever system you're coming out of, there's absolutely no difference in how you feel about the whole world in front of you at the end of it. I went to university because it was the natural next step. I like to think of it as a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt of kids at school to the working world. This is what it is. It's a conveyor belt. I was on the conveyor belt. A lot of us still are on the conveyor belt. And I went to university and I went to go study architecture because it was a subject that I really loved, but also it was a great design degree. I knew I wanted to do design, but architecture was like a better degree, so I'd go and study that because it would open more doors. This is another saying we always have, keeps the doors open, which is also partly true, but partly not as true as we give it credit for. If there's something we really want to do later in life, we can absolutely go and make the changes and work towards that and go and do it. Anyway, I went to go keep the doors open, and because it was a good degree and because it was the next step. And I thought that's exactly what everyone does, therefore I'm going to do it too. I was 18, of course I went to go do it. I was still a baby. As I'm studying, and I'm studying architecture, right? So I'm going for a design degree, but you're still being treated as if you're going to be an architect. And to be an architect, you have to do part 1, part 2, part 3, all this experience. Like, there's a whole conveyor belt in itself to get you there. So I'm being treated as if I'm on the conveyor belt to be an architect. And I'm studying, and I really loved my degree actually. If I could go back and do it again, like, I absolutely would, because architecture is one of those amazing degrees where you still study everything. And it's so in person as well, that you really get to know your cohort, you really get the value. I mean, I didn't understand how so many people went to university and had 10 hours of contact a week. I thought, like, what are you paying for? To sit in a lecture hall and not talk to anyone? To not get any individual help? Like, I didn't really understand it. My degree was so in person and collaborative. We were working and designing as a studio, as if it was for the real world. Oh yeah, we also did a business module. That was so useful. so useful. It was an amazing degree. I would absolutely go back and do it again. The one thing with architecture though is you do have to be committed, because it is incredibly high amounts of work. Like, it's so much work. You really have to be dedicated, and it's not really healthy, the amount of work people were doing and having to do, because you could spend so long on it and then end up having to redo it. Anyway, I was on this conveyor belt, and architecture, I still loved it, and I loved designing, and it was getting to my 3rd year at the end of my degree, and I was wondering, what am I going to do afterwards? Like, am I going to go and do the placement? Am I going to go do something else? Am I going to go back to more interior design that I was really interested in, more arty something? Like, what am I going to do? And I was faced again with the question of, what do I do when I could do anything? The thought of being able to do anything, that's so overwhelming. It's terrifying. Like, there's a whole world out there and I could do absolutely anything. It's terrifying. I got to my 3rd year and I was faced with the same issues I had coming out of school. What am I going to do next? I'm expected to go do a placement. Like, I could just keep staying at it, keep on the conveyor belt, because I didn't want to close the door yet and step off. But I was thinking, maybe I'll do design. Like, I don't know. But just the thought of that, after this year of university, what was I going to do? I could do absolutely anything. It was so scary. So I decided, okay, let's just keep going. I'll apply for one of the placements and see how it goes. And if it's the right thing, I'll keep going. If not, at least I tried, and I would have spent time working on the right thing, making connections, building up my career, hopefully leading me to a door that was right for me. So I finished my degree, and I worked so hard for that at the end. Like, I was fighting for a grade, and because I knew that if I didn't get that grade, I wouldn't be looked at by all these employers. So I was fighting for that grade, like fighting for my life. Oh, I did get that grade in the end, by the way. It was such a great feeling, like, wow. It was such relief. I was like, wow, okay, I can go and do this, and I can still stay and go and get this placement. So I started applying for these placements, and never mind all the AI stuff that's making getting jobs harder. So people just didn't want to employ people. And if they were employing people, it's employers' market. If they're employing people, they're employing the people that have done even more time studying, a further 2 years, rather than at the standard time when they've done 3 years. I was struggling. I was really struggling, and applying for these jobs, I was having to spend so much time on these applications because we had to make all these portfolios as well, and it had to be for the company specific and their aesthetic and the way they work and this, that, the other, the kind of projects. Oh my gosh, it was just so much. It was so draining. It was so draining, and I felt so stuck and stagnant because I was putting all my effort into these applications and getting absolutely nothing, despite having got the grade that I was I was fighting for. But in feeling a little bit stagnant and stuck, there was a little blessing in disguise, because I had more time to actually pause and think, is my energy going in the right places? Am I doing the right thing here? How much do I really want this placement? Because so far, up until this point, I'd been staying on the conveyor belt because it felt safe, because it was so much safer than the terrifying I could do anything else, and then figuring out what that was. I was making a bunch of non-decisions. My decisions were just non-decisions. My decisions were just to stay exactly on the same thing instead of step off and choose different. That's such an easy decision to make non-decisions. But in doing so, you're not opening up the path to what's really waiting for you and what really is actually meant for you, and discovering what that is. And it is scary. It's absolutely scary. But as they say, if it doesn't scare you, it wasn't worth it. So I decided that, okay, I'd done a little bit of freelance since. I'd done some bits here and there. I'd done some other things, like other experiences, but I've still not got anything stable. Again, I was still on this thing about a stable job. And I realised I've been listening to these business podcasts the whole time. And I was like, hold on a minute. I've always envisioned, yeah, I'll go and do the year placement. I'll see how that goes. But in a few years' time, or just down the line, I know I'm going to have my own business. And I put that off. I was like, no, like obviously not now. Like I need experience. I'm so young. I'm at the start of my career. I absolutely need experience. I can't possibly go and start a business right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. But you know what? Do you think the people that are running the businesses have any idea what they're doing? I realised I was actually going to be an entrepreneur, whether it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, like however long down the line it was. I realised, so why not now? Why can I not step off the conveyor belt and do that now? And when I realised that, I genuinely felt so much lighter. There was so much heaviness, like weight, just weighing me down, because I was fighting for something that I was doing because it was a non-decision. Like, sure, I would have been good at it. I would have enjoyed it. And it's definitely not something that I'm turning my back on forever, because I still absolutely love architecture and design and art. But why can't I try something different? I don't have to succeed. I could just try. And when I took that pressure off and I actually went to go and do something, to take an action, as soon as I took that first step in the physical work, it wasn't just an idea in my head, it was a physical, what I'm doing. Everything, like what I was saying about the noise before, covering your path, all of that noise, it just disappeared, like it vanished. This looks like a different place. Where am I? Where was the messy dumping ground I was before? Like, why is this a nice field with a direct path forward? How did I get here? I felt lighter. I felt more energized. I felt clearer. I felt more connected to myself. And I intentionally took the space because I was forced to take the space. What does this business look like? What am I doing? Where's this come from? And I realised just 5 minutes after sitting down and having that thought that the answers had always been there. I'd just been ignoring them and putting them off. My non-decisions had just been putting off the thought and consideration of what else I could do. And when I realised, okay, what is it I'm actually really good at? That's where YALARA was born. That's where YALARA came from. I realised I'm the person that's always giving advice to people. I'm always giving people another perspective or another way of thinking about something, or saying something that sparks a thought in them that makes them do something differently. And I've had friends tell me before that I'm this friend for them, and that they feel like talking to me feels productive, or it just feels like they get a new perspective on the world. I'm like, it's just, I mean, it's lovely, but it's just crazy to think that. And I just brushed that off as like, oh, that's a nice compliment. But that was genuinely consistent feedback I was getting. And I loved being that person. I loved being able to do that for people. And if I think back at all the hardships I've had over my life and what they've been preparing me for, they've been preparing me to be able to help people, to give perspective, to be able to think of things a different way, to open conversations about things that people haven't started conversations on yet, or continue them in different ways. And I never considered that that could have been something that down the line could be a business. I never thought about that. And then considering that, I thought, okay, and now there's the resistance of social media because I just don't like putting myself online. I've never been someone to post. I'm the chronically offline girl. So like, what do you mean I'm going to be online? But as I'm starting to think about things about this brand and what it would look like and what it stands for and the values and where it comes from, I went to this workshop actually. And as soon as I went there, I was in a room full of entrepreneurs. And I felt like this is the first time I've walked into a professional setting and felt this is my people. Like I belong in this room. And because I felt that, from there, everything started to fall into place. I don't want to make it sound magical because none of it is magic, but it felt like magic because everything in contrast to what I was feeling before and experiencing before, and the heaviness, the stagnation, the non-decisions, matching up to a blueprint that I was trying to piece together and map out for myself and what I thought was right for me based on what had worked for other people. When I completely tossed that to the side and just focused, what am I good at? What am I genuinely good at? What do I get great feedback at? What are the skills? What are the things that I'm just so natural at? What things have happened in my life to lead me to this point? When I took the time to think about that, YALARA, it wasn't even a creation, it was an answer. Ooh, that gave me chills. It was an answer. And I hadn't even spent that long figuring out and sitting in the unknown of what I was going to do. That it just came to me. I'm not saying that to say it's going to just come to everyone else that decides to take the leap of faith and step off the conveyor belt. Sometimes it can take years and years to really find what it is. But if you're trying and finding different things, you will get there. And the more time you spend with yourself and learning yourself and understanding yourself and what lights you up, what you're really great at, the answer will arrive. You can't imagine it right now. You couldn't possibly get there without taking that leap of faith, but the answer will arrive. You just have to be open to receiving it and doing things that show you are open to receiving it. I'm starting to work on this business, and all the answers as I'm going, the mini answers, the bigger answers, everything is just falling into place in this pathway that I'm following that has been cleared for me. I'm able to just walk the pathway with so much energy, and I'm able to pick up the side, like pick a strawberry, pick a piece of corn in the meadow, pick a flower, whatever it is. I'm able to just pick it up and let it join me. I trusted myself so much because I knew myself so well in that moment where the answer came to me, that anything else that was going to come to me on this venture was more obvious. It was obvious. It was talking to me. It was telling me like, hey, I'm for you on this journey. Take me. And I was able to pick it up and add it in. When I started working on this, when I say the work energized me, like it didn't feel like work anymore. It didn't feel like work anymore. The more I actually worked on it, this is crazy, but the more I worked on it, the more energy I had. And I've always worked in the way that when I'm working, if I feel tired and I need to take a break, I feel like it's enough now. The day's over. I've done enough today. I have never felt like that about this. I have only felt energized. It's only made me feel like I need to do more and I want to do more and more and more and more. And I couldn't switch it off. And that was a problem in itself. That was a whole different problem in itself. I actually needed more discipline to put it down. But isn't that a great problem to have? And I'm incredibly grateful the fact that I found this and this lights me up and this is what I'm doing. And it's all because I came back to myself and I decided to do the scary thing and step off the conveyor belt. So with that being said, I challenge you to spend 5 minutes just thinking today, not scrolling. Even put your phone on charge in another room. Just put it away. Just spend that time thinking about you, what you liked about today. Don't even have to make it as existential as about life. Just think about what you liked about your day, what you liked about your week, what lights you up, what made you feel energized, what made you feel drained. Just take 5 minutes, and I promise you, taking another 5 minutes will become even easier, and it will eventually lead you to the answers where they will come to you. So if your life is feeling off, it's not random. You have all this external noise. You get to choose to have silence. You get to choose that. You get to choose to have silence. So embrace the silence, and the reason why your life feels off will come to you. The answers will come to you. That concludes the first episode of the YALARA Podcast. Wow, I'm so excited. I would really love if you could let me know what you thought of this episode. Leave a review, send me a DM of your review, or just let me know. I'd really love to hear what you thought. And if you have any questions or thoughts, I would really love to chat to you. Send me a DM at YALARA Collective. I'll leave it in the show notes. And any review really helps the show out for getting it to more people. So I'd really love and appreciate if you could do that. That would be amazing. And follow along if you want to hear more podcasts and more insights and more thoughts. And I look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. Mwah.